Hey y'all, welcome back to Reddit the Wire. Well, it's day 4 of the Royal Ascot meeting. We're going to cover 4 of the major stakes races from the day, so let's get into it. So we always have our general note to start, in that the course is expected to be good to firm. Aside from day 1, where there were some thunder showers before racing started that did soften things up a little bit, as of the end of day 2, when we're recording this on Wednesday, the course is back to being good to firm. So we want to look for horses that fire well on firm turf. And if it should have turned soft, we'll try to note where we can upgrade those who prefer it to be soft. So for day 4, we're going to look at the Albany Stakes, which is a 6 furlong sprint for 2-year-olds. The Commonwealth Cup, which is a 6 furlong sprint for 3-year-olds. The Coronation Stakes, which is 7 furlongs, 213 yards, or approximately a mile, for 3-year-old fillies. And the King Edward VII Stakes, which is a mile, 3 furlongs, and 211 yards, or roughly a mile and a half, for 3-year-old colts and geldings. Fillies cannot participate. So in the Albany Stakes, these are our 10-year trends. It's, again, 6 furlongs for 2-year-olds. Aiden O'Brien and Roger Varian have 2 wins each. They're the leaders. 50% rivals beaten and 32.2% run to form. And very quickly, as we like to do, just for the uninitiated, 50% rivals beaten basically means it's a measurement of how many horses a horse has competed against and beaten. So you basically, if it's a 6-horse race, as an example, you take the field size 6 and you finish second. You subtract 2, your placing, to get 4, and then you divide it by 6, the field size, minus 1, the horse who's running, and that gives you 5. So it's 4 divided by 5 would be 80% rivals beaten. Obviously, if you have 100%, that means you're undefeated. So the higher the percentage, the better you are. Run to form is a percentage for trainers, and it notes how the horses are running in general. So based upon the expectations. So if the horses run to expectations or exceed them, the percentage goes higher. So if obviously the higher your run to form percentage, the higher your barn is, and the better your horses are doing. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's unique to English racing, but that's a pretty cool stat in my opinion. So all 10 winners won the last time out, and that's no surprise for 2-year-olds. A lot of these are coming in with a debut maiden win or their second start won. But for the majority, they all if you won the race, you won your last time out. 5 winners with 1 start in the season prior, and 5 had 2. So either they were coming off their maiden breaker, or they had an allowance or a stakes win coming off of it for 2 starts. 8 winners had 26 to 50 days off prior to the race. 2 had less than or equal to 25 days, so definitely some recency would help. No surprise for 2-year-olds. None of them had headgear. And when we say headgear, we mean putting it on for the first time. So blinkers, cheek pieces, anything of that nature. If you see that as a first-time adjustment by a trainer, then you may want to downgrade your thoughts about a horse. 3 of the 10 favorites won. 3 second choices as well. So it's a little chalk heavy. But these are big fields. We're dealing with these 2-year-old races, and they're 2-year-olds, so they're a little unpredictable. So anything can happen. So it does tend to be a little chalky. This one does anyway. But there's still room for plenty of crazy things to happen. So if we look at the field, you'll see it's a pretty good sized field. I believe there's 18 in this race. And if we look at I'll go over a couple real briefly. Carla's Way was extremely impressive in her maiden in her maiden win. She won by open lengths and followed it up with another open length victory, and that was flattered by the horse who finished in second place, won by 11 lengths in his next start. So this is one with a lot of potential, and the trainer is really good with 2-year-olds. He's 23%. So this is one to watch and is a deserving 7-2 favorite. Soprano is George Bowie's a really hot trainer over in Europe, and you do get William Buick, but I watched that race and I didn't see that real greasy turn of foot you'd like to see from a 2-year-old. Soprano won the race, but it wasn't quite as impressively as you'd like to see, perhaps. going into a stakes race or for a first or second time starter. Jabara, on the other hand, looked awesome. I mean, was full of run, tons of energy, looked really solid in the last race, and I really like this horse. Roger Varian, he's won this race a couple of times, so he knows how to do it. So this is one I think you want to keep your eye on. Navassa Island came from off the pace in her last start, which I believe was a stakes race with Porta Fortuna, who you can see is right next to her. And she showed a really big kick and just missed nipping Porta Fortuna at the wire. She came from off the pace. And in this race, where there's going to be a lot of early speed, those late runners have a little bit of an advantage. So I like Navassa Island's chances, and looks pretty good coming in. Porta Fortuna was in that race as well, and is trained by Donacha Aidan O'Brien, and who's doing very well. And you get Frankie Dettori aboard for his farewell performance in this race. And Porta Fortuna had the edge on Navassa Island because it was a little closer to the pace, and displayed a good kick and won well. But like I say, Navassa Island was getting to her, so she was kind of hoping for the wire. Matrika's one that's kind of interesting. Looked okay winning. It wasn't the greatest of fields she beats, but she is trained by Aidan O'Brien, and Ryan Moore is the jockey, and that's a lethal combination, particularly at Ascot. Aidan O'Brien's barn is hot as usual. Didn't display, like I said, the speed wasn't really apparent, but I'm fairly certain this one's going to improve, and comes from off the pace, and I think that's a really good place to be in these races. So I think this is one at 10-1 isn't a bad consideration. Persian Dreamer, on the other hand, I really didn't like. Her last race, she just kind of flattened out in the stretch, upgrading in class, and you never want to see that. And so perhaps this one had a really impressive debut. Maybe caught on a bad day, I don't know, but I really didn't like what I saw, so I think she's a bit of an underlay, even at 22-1 in this field. Just looking through a couple that maybe are a little off the radar, or a little higher priced, that I think you maybe want to take a look at. Comat is one that Holly Doyle is the jockey, and that's the first attraction. She's just killing it at Ascot. And this one apparently will want more ground and is upgrading from 5 furlongs to 6. And will probably be coming off the pace. So this at 40-1, this is one you want to think about. Now here's my bomb for the day. Sarah Kana. She had a ridiculously great trip last time. And I don't mean what she did with a bad circumstance. She hopped at the break, spotted the field, a fair amount of ground, and she just hung back there and steadily moved her way up, fought through traffic a little bit, and then came and still had enough in the end to get up and win the race. And I can't believe she's at 50-1. I really like this horse, and I think she has the right running style and is coming in really good form. And I think this is one, watch out, because I think you're getting a really nice price. And, the other thing is that you should be a little bit towards the outside, and you want horses on the edges in these races. If you've been watching Ascot, you may notice how they split off into a couple of different groups. So usually horses that drew to the inside or to the outside, but not necessarily in the middle, is a better place to be. So Sarah Connor comes off the pace, so it's not that big a deal. But anyway, I think she's a really good bet in this race, and I like her chances a lot. So let's go to our top 5, and here we are. Sarah Connor, 50-1. I'm throwing the bomb. This is a 2-year-old race. Anything can happen. I don't see a clear-cut horse who's just far and away the best. I mean, Carla's Way looks awful good, but she's going to be running on the front end, and is going to be the pace is obviously going to be hotly contested. So I'm looking for horses coming off the pace, and Sarah Connor to me fits the bill at 50-1. That's a phenomenal price. Navassa Island, as I mentioned, another one coming from off the pace, I think has a lot of talent, and this should suit her very well. This should set up just right. Jabara is one that'll run on the front end, but, she's awful good. And, she could very well take it. He has a little bit better class than Carla's Way in terms of what she's been racing against. But I think she's got a lot of ability, and 9-2 isn't a bad price. And you're really not getting a bad price in this race. Let's be honest. Carla's Way we got to include because she was awfully dominant in her last couple of races. I just wonder about the class, and the race shape doesn't necessarily favor early speed. And Matrinka we're going to throw in there. I think right now on paper she doesn't look as good as some of the others, but she does come off the pace and is trained by Aidan O'Brien, and it's got to have Ryan Moore aboard, and I think that he'll have trained her up, so she's definitely going to improve, and you get a pretty good price at 10-1, so I think she ought to be included. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Commonwealth Cup, and it's a 6-furlong sprint for 3-year-olds. And these are the 10-year notes. 10 different trainers, including Wesley Ward, and have won this race. And Frankie Dettori has 2 wins for the leading jockey. 50% rivals beaten and 25.4% run to form. That tells me that you're going to have a little bit of value to work with, and that maybe not necessarily the hottest or most logical barns always win this. 6 to 8 winners did not win last time out, and I think that's a really interesting statistic. Because normally, younger horses, you want them winning coming in. So that's a bit of a surprise. And incidentally, I meant to say 8 different trainers. They've only run this race 8 times. Sorry about that. 4 out of the 8 winners had 2 runs in the season prior. So they had 2 races coming up to it. 2 had 1, and 2 won with no starts and made their debut for the year. So it's not necessarily important that you have runs in the season. You can come off the bench. 5 winners had 26 to 50 days prior, and 1 had less than or equal to 25 days, and 2 had 201 to 300, so had really long layoffs and came off the bench. 7 winners had no headgear, and 1 did have it for the first time. 3 out of 10 favorites won, and 5 were outliers, and that means they were really decent odds overlays. So this is a kind of a tricky race that not always the chalk is evident to win it. And if we look at this field, this is actually an instance where the chalk is pretty, excuse me, is a pretty heavy-duty player. Little Big Bear is a pretty awesome horse. He's won in every form of sprint. The only thing he didn't when they tried to stretch him out to the mile, and it obviously didn't fit him, but he came right back in his next start and won easily. And Frankie Dettori was noted to say after it that he just geared her down, and it really wasn't much of a challenge. So couldn't be coming into this race in better form. You get Aidan O'Brien and you get Ryan Moore again, the hot combination. So this is a very logical favorite, and at 5-4, not the greatest price, but this is one you definitely have to use. Sakir is very interesting, trained by Roger Varian, and this one is improving steadily. Every start, his class level is getting better as the class levels get better he runs at, and that's exactly what you want to see. So these sprints are kind of tricky with these big fields, but he's in really good form, and I think he's another one that you definitely have to use. Lazoo is another one that's sneaky good and is improving steadily, and this is a filly taking on the boys, and she's done pretty darn well for herself, and you get Frankie Dettori aboard, and some of the pundits are very high on her, and I looked at her form, and she's getting better and is coming into this race in pretty good shape, so definitely one you want to think about at 9-1. Shaquille is I think the race shape really doesn't set up terribly well, because Shaquille likes to be on the front end and is a bit of a head case, or can be a little trouble to work with. And that's not good coming into a stakes. Her last race, she ran an extremely good race. She dueled with Desert Cop on the front end all the way around the track and still had enough to come through and win it. So there's definitely some talent here. You just have to wonder about the shenanigans, before the race and whatnot. That might get a little worked up. So that's at 12-1. It's not a bad price. Probably would rate it a little higher if it wasn't for the eccentricities. Noble Style is Charlie Appleby coming into this race, needs no explanations. The trainer. This one's last race, he was the favorite, He comes from off the pace, and he really just didn't have any run to get the job done at the end. He finished what I thought was a pretty bad 30, dead heated with with another horse for fourth, and really didn't show that kick coming from off the pace to win the race. And in fact, Shaquille's the one who beat him. So I don't think necessarily Noble Styles coming into this race in the greatest of form. Probably going to get hammered because of Charlie Appleby. But to be honest, I don't think Charlie Appleby's stable's doing that well right now. Aradna did not do very well today. Or was it Arab? I'm sorry, I can't remember. There's so many of them. But he had a favorite in, I think it was the Duke of Cambridge today, one of the races, and didn't fire very well. Modern Games didn't do very well, so compared to what he can do. So I think the barn's in a bit of a slump. He was coming into the meet really hot, but it seems like all of them are kind of disappointing, so it's maybe something to keep in mind. Ocean Quest was one I didn't get real excited about watching. I didn't think really would factor in this race terribly much in comparison. The one that's kind of interesting to me is Should Have Been Airing, you see here with the really unique name. This one's been in a lot of races and fires every single time. Has been 5 out of 6 in the money for 6 furlongs, 3 wins. I think it's 3 wins, 2, maybe all of my 3 wins, 2 seconds, and a third. But this one fires every time. It comes from off the pace. And it's coming into the race in good form. I think this one definitely to consider. Mischief Magic, on the other hand, debuted this year last month after not having raced since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile turf sprint that we remember, and threw in a real clunker and didn't look very good at all. And so, again, another one, Charlie Appleby, not really firing. This one could rebound. I mean, it's possible, but I didn't really like the form coming in, and I probably wouldn't consider. Another one to think about is the XO. I think he's kind of under the radar. He's another one that can come off the pace and has been pretty competitive this year, and his form is continuing to improve. And I think I believe it's a Michael Tabor horse, and I like it. I think under the radar at 80-1. That's an absolute steal. I mean, this horse is a lot better than that. So I would definitely have on your tickets for no other reason than 80-1. You just have to. And then maybe one other is Queen Me, who looks pretty good. That comes from off the pace as well, and has got a pretty decent kick. And at 40-1, again, a really nice price to round out your tickets. So if we look at our top 5, we see Little Big Bear is a pretty good logical favorite. Lazoo is another one I think is on the rise and taking on the boys, and I think is more than up to the task. You get Should Have Been Airing. Again, another hard knocker who's always there and always in the money. It comes from off the pace, and I think in these big sprints, that's a good place to be. Secure, steady improvement, getting better as the class level continues to rise. It's exactly what you want to see. Very logical horse and could possibly win this. And then the XO is another one. I think that the form is sneaky good, and I think has been involved in a lot of races and could very well be there in the end. The next race we're going to talk about is the Coronation Stakes, and it's at 7 furlongs, 213 yards, or approximately a mile, for 3-year-old fillies. And we see on the trends that Jean-Claude Rouget and Mrs. J. Harrington, Jessie Harrington, have 2 wins each. Frankie Dettori and Ryan Moore, the jockeys, have 2 as well. 50.1% rivals beaten and 35.8% run to form. 6 out of the 10 did not win last time out, and 50.3% rivals beaten, 40% run to form. So maybe the barns were a little hotter for those who didn't win last time out, and that might have had something to do with it, bring them all up. 6 winners had 2 starts prior. 2 had 0, 1 had 1, and 1 had 3. So seasoning's pretty good to have, but not necessary. 8 winners had 26 to 50 days prior, meaning their last race, and 2 had over 200 days off. So you can come off the bench and win this one. I don't think anybody's debuting from a long layoff, but anyway, it can be done. All 10 had no first-time blinkers, cheek pieces, anything like that. And 4 favorites have won and 2 second choices. So it's a fairly chalky affair. But you can win it as an overlay as well. So if we look at the field, we'll see it's a small one, and it's led by Tahira. Tahira just won the Irish 1,000 guineas, and she finished second in the English 1,000 guineas. She's beaten Meditate twice, who we remember from the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies. She has been just a monster, and she's just getting better with every start. Very logical winning candidate, and she's trained by Dermot Weld. Could not be in better hands. He loves winning classic stakes races. That's his passion. So she's in really good hands and a logical pick, and my pick to win it. And she's pretty darn good. Meditate, we remember, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies pretty impressively. That was on firm turf, and it seems to be a pattern. She likes it firm, and she's going to get it tomorrow. So that's or on Friday, more than likely, and that'll be good for her. Her debut start this year was on soft turf and did not run terribly well, but came back in the Irish Guineas and lost to Tahira, and she's lost to Tahira twice. Queen for You and Sounds of Heaven both came out of a stakes race at York, and Queen for You was rated in the rear. Sounds of Heaven had a little bit of an edge tactically and was a little closer to the pace and was able to hold on and get the win. But Queen for You came up very nicely and closed. Either one of them, I think, is definitely a player here. They're both getting good at the right time. If I had to pick one of them to prefer over the other, maybe Sounds of Heaven, just because of the running style. But I think both of them are definitely on the right track. The last three are, it kind of drops off a little bit. Comra, or however you pronounce it, has been kind of a weak sister in the division. She just always seems to be the bridesmaid compared to the better. And so I don't expect her to do anything different in this race. Don't expect to factor. I don't think Remarque really belongs in this race at all. She's way behind the rest. Mama's Girl is fairly unraced. It's only had a couple of starts, and the last one wasn't terribly good. But looks like it has a little bit of talent, and it's possibly can perhaps improve a little bit, and might be worth a consideration. You never know; she might freak, but she looks like she has some talent. So if we look at the top five, we pretty much went over them. There's 6 horses in the race, so, or 7 rather. So it's you pretty much use the whole field, I guess. Tahira is a clear-cut favorite. She's my choice to win it. She's an excellent horse, and I think she has everything in her favor. Meditate, I think, will be better on firm turf, and if he gets it on Friday, should be a very solid second-place contender. Queen for You and Sounds of Heaven, I think, are sort of equal, though. Queens for You comes from off the pace. Sounds of Heaven is a little closer to it. It's kind of splitting hairs to determine which one is better. I guess I put Queen for You up there mainly for the late running style, but I think they're equally good. And I just kind of threw Mama's Girl in there because somebody had to be fifth. I don't really think she'll factor, but you never know. She has displayed a little bit of talent, and at the price, why not? The last race we're going to talk about is the King Edward VII Stakes, and it's at 1 mile, 3 furlongs, and 211 yards, or approximately 1.5 miles for 3-year-olds, colts, and geldings. No fillies are eligible. For trends, we have Aidan O'Brien and Sir Michael Stout have 2 wins each. Ryan Moore and William Buick have 3 wins each. 50.1% rivals beaten and 50% run to form. So there's some pretty hot barns that have been winning this. 8 out of 10 winners did not win last time out, and that might explain it. Hot barn elevates horses. 3 winners had 1, 2, and or 3 starts prior. So there's a good range there. And 5 winners had less than or equal to 25 days off prior. 3 had 26 to 50, and 2 had 51 to 74 days off prior. None of the 10 winners had first-time headgear, and 3 favorites and 3 second choices have won. So it's fairly chalky, but you can be an overlay and still get it done. Now, we take a look at this field, and we see it's a pretty small one. There's only 6 in it, and it's headed by the King of Steel, and he just finished second in the Epsom Derby. And the thing about him is he ran a really big race. He was 66 to 1 going into that race. And he'd only had a couple of starts prior to that and really hadn't demonstrated where he could run that kind of race. So I'm kind of against him here because I think that was a huge effort, and you can't really expect him to run back to that unless he's made a monster improvement. Arrest, conversely, showed some promise, and I think this one is definitely can run a lot better. He did not do well in the Derby, but he was sweating beforehand, and he looked like he was ready to make a move. He stalked the leaders, and he had good turn of foot getting around Tattenham Corner, but then he just sort of fell back, and I think it was because he was a little keyed up. But this one showed form prior to that I think he can run a better race here, and I like him as a win candidate. Continuous is another one that showed a lot of precocity early. They had him in stakes races in his second start, and he won a big one. But then his next the last start prior to this one, he was up near the leaders, and he just sort of couldn't stay in it, and he fell back. But I think this one is a little better. It's not it's not the greatest of fields, really, to be honest. And Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, I'm pretty sure that they can correct whatever the issue might be. So I think you have to use. Artistic Star is another one that's had some, hasn't been raced a whole lot, and they threw him right into the Derby. And he didn't do that great as well. But I think this one is capable of a little better. Though I don't necessarily see him as a win candidate here. At 11-1, he's a pretty good price for underneath. Due by a Mile is, by his name, he was racing at the mile level, and then all of a sudden they decided to send him into longer races at a mile and a quarter and longer, but he didn't really factor terribly well in those, and he's just kind of hard to get a feel for. But I will say this. Charlie Johnston is a hot trainer right now, and his barn is flourishing, so that's maybe something to consider. But I think he's more a candidate for under. And Relentless Voyager, from what I can see, I just don't really think he belongs in this race. So it's a small field, and it's kind of top heavy. I think King of Steel is pretty vulnerable here. So if we look at our top five, I've got Arrest on top. I think he's definitely can run a lot better, and he looks to have a lot of potential, and I think he's a logical win candidate with a better race. We'll put Continuous number 2. He's another one that Aidan O'Brien, needs no introduction. Ryan Moore, great connections and a hot barn, and I'm sure if there was something wrong, he'll correct it, and I think he'll probably factor here. King of Steel's got to show it to me a second time. His race in the Derby, they were way ahead of the field, and Auguste Rodin ran him down. King of Steel was poised to win at 66-1. It was just a monster effort, and it was better than his prior races, much better. So I'm just not sure he can come back and do that again. Artistic Star has a little bit of precocity, shown a little bit of talent, but it might be a little early for him. And Due by a Mile, I'm just not sure is good enough. I think he's in a hot barn, but he needs to be a little more consistent for me to get excited about him. Some small fields to end it, but I think we got a vulnerable favorite to beat King of Steel, and I'm definitely going to try to do so. Don't know if you're going to get a big price in trying to beat him, but I think he's worthy to take a stab against. Tahira, on the other hand, I think is going to be pretty hard to beat. She looks awful salty in a small field, but there are some challengers, so that should be an interesting race, fun to watch nonetheless. And of course, the two races earlier, there's a lot more options, and I think there's definitely some value to be had. And hopefully, this helps you with your own wager formulation. And I wish you the best of luck. It's been a fun meet so far. I can't wait for the next day. Royal Ascot's a real treat for sure, and it's a nice contrast from American racing. We're going to have more from Ascot, as well as some more American racing. We'll get back to that for sure. Throughout the rest of the thoroughbred season, we'll be here, and we'll have a lot of coverage for Saratoga coming up, so be on the lookout for that. And we'll sprinkle in Del Mar and all the major stake races that arise. So if you do like what you see here, of course, please like and subscribe, and we do thank you for coming by, and I love hearing from you guys. Keep those comments coming, and let's keep growing this community. I really love the direction it's taking, and it's exactly what I wanted. So I thank you for being a part of it. I'll be talking to you in the very near future, and until then, be well.